Good morning, happy Monday. So, got over the holidays. It's Monday morning, you're going back to work, hopefully. Maybe the kids are going back to school if you're lucky. And so maybe you're getting to set in motion all those big ideas you had from New Year's resolutions, or it's just another day.
Or maybe you didn't do a New Year's resolution. That's not your habit. It's a good habit.
So we are going to talk about not being so much of a consumer and becoming a becomer. So less consuming, more becoming.
Before we get too far in there, I can kind of share my personal journey. I think once I share, it should help you understand maybe.
I mean, we want you to consume our stuff to some extent, but we want you to go live your life and then consume our stuff.
You know, I think one of the things that we didn't like feeling part of a cog system, and that's part of the reason we kind of tore away from what we were living and like, you know what, this doesn't make sense. I work a ton, I have the house, I have the pool, I had the big cars, I had a business, but I'm like, I don't feel the way I feel, and we didn't feel the way we feel. And so even through our travels, there's always this tendency to kind of placate yourself with certain things. And anything I say, I'm like, look, if you like to go watch a movie, great. I'm just saying that if you're sitting around watching 8 to 10 hours of TV and then you wake up and you're still sad, so you go back to the TV, that could be a compensation for something. And so there was a time that I really was consuming and really wanted to, get that TV, watch a certain amount of sports and watch a certain amount of movies and go out to eat, and there was, if you make that active choice and you're doing that, that's fine. But if in my case I was so flippin' tired that I was just like, well, this will just do for now.
It's been a big thing that we hit heads on was that idea of consuming versus becoming. And becoming means like chase your desire, chase your highest self. Those things that for some people are like, I don't know where to even start. And there was a point when I used to say those things to Victor and he's like, what? Like, I just want to watch football. Can you just leave me alone and let me watch football?
Yeah, and even then it was like I had to make some decisions and I just didn't have good energy. So I didn't, that goes back to my 5 pillars. Like I just didn't have energy enough to be like, what do you mean want something? I'm like, I just survived Monday through Saturday.
And it could have been little things, like it started with something little like, where do you want to go this Friday night, to where do you want to go on our next trip, to what hike do you want to do, to what, it was always like, what do you want? It's like, I just want to finish the show. And there was another one that, and sometimes it's personality type, but I know for a long time you felt like, well, it's just nice to have some laughter. Laughter's totally important in your life, but remember, a lot of times it's like, I just want to watch one more movie because it makes me feel good. And we have to catch, are we consuming to make us feel good, which is awesome, but if we're avoiding actually experiencing life to just consume to feel good, there's a room for both.
Or you're being sedated. Are you being medicated in a different way, right? And you can make an argument. You can make an argument with everything we have, media, movies, TV, everything, that we are being sort of medicated in that regard.
Okay, so we have 7 things that we're going to share with you today. To help you kind of shift from that consumer mindset to that becoming mindset.
Becoming whatever it is you want to be. Yeah, who do you want to be? Go ahead.
So number 1 is, we touched on it already, desire. Who is that person? What is that? What does it look like? What am I trying to, if I wasn't going to go watch this show, do I have something else that I really want to do to get to a next stage in my life, or next element of thriving, happiness?
Yeah. So pump the brakes. Let's talk a little bit. Desire was tough for me. It still actually always is, because I just want my family to be happy and healthy, and that's all well and good. We can all be like that. If you're my personality type, you're going to want to defer to that always. However, you have to scratch at the surface and figure out, okay, when I'm getting really, really tired and I'm lashing out, what does that come from? Well, it comes from a little anger because I did not get blank. And so, at my root, I love to get a workout, great food. When I was in San Diego, I trained jiu-jitsu my blank amount of times a week. And I was kind of placated on that background. But then you have to go even further. Well, if I go on these trips and I'm grumpy in some way because they're hiking 18 or 20 and I'm like, I'm good, and I didn't say anything, then I had a desire to be, well, I love a 6 miler and moderate. I love Tati to be able to do it. And why?
It took a long time, he said,
Yeah.
for him to say, like, hey, I want to be included in the hike, but can we do 6 miles? That was a hard thing.
Yeah,
That was
I
a hard thing
mean,
to say.
it's again, desire is, you have to scratch at it and figure out. If you can't figure it out, you can't figure out what your true desire is. It could be because your life is just like grinding you down. And so what is the best thing to do is like, okay, how do you like your eggs? I always remember that line. What movie is that? With
Runaway Bride.
Runaway Bride, Richard Gere and Julia Roberts in it, is always just adapting to the dude. Whatever guy she's with, she had her scrambled with that one. And Richard Gere's like, you don't even know what kind of eggs you like. So figure out what kind of eggs you like and move from there. Okay?
Perfect. Number 2 is do something every day towards that. Like, it doesn't have to be a huge step, but it has to be a step every day towards the right direction.
Towards a desire. It can be a micro step, but it has to be going that way.
So what, last year, Victor's, can we say how old you are?
Yeah, I don't
46. It took till he was 45. There's this running joke in our family. The
Okay.
song "Courage to Grow" by
And now, Revolution.
Revolution.
And now you're
45. You
and
finally
realize just what you
Okay,
want to do. with
so we
your
got him finally his first ever organizer, like calendar to like keep track.
Up
Remember
until
what a
then,
big deal?
it was just in my head, but I was actually limiting my total.
In all fairness, your schedule was like show up at work every day at 7 a.m. and stay there till 7 p.m. What did you have to write down? You were
Right,
there.
right.
But then you had some, but it was still interesting to all of a sudden have this planner, because then we went, this is get something done every day. And we actually got him a book that said get SHIT done.
Yeah.
And it would, and then I'd catch myself like, do that. Like, it would become like, not even a honey-do list, but like, I put in questions of, where do you want to hike next week? Or where do you want to go this time? And you can, so it doesn't always have to be like, I need to fix the plumbing, fix the leaky toilet. It can be little things like putting in questions. Remember Isabel made you a calendar one time, and just or a planner, and just added prompts. It's kind of like journal questions.
That was my birthday present. She wrote
to
prompts.
to like stimulate desire, like, oh, contemplate this, and so it can be tangible things like, all right, record on YouTube every day because I have something that I can offer to make the world better.
Right.
Or it can be something like, what did you not like that you had to do, felt like you had to do today, and was it really something you had to do?
Or something simple like, for me, reading certain type of books or gathering certain information, allot that through your day. I love to read, but I don't get myself to do it often enough because I'm always like, poof, what do you need? Poof, what do you need? Poof, what do you need? Before you know it, I haven't read a book that I enjoy or that teaches me something. So that helps when you plan it in there. Okay.
Number 3, my favorite, fail forward. Fail.
Yeah.
I love fail. I mean,
But
fail
fail forward.
failure, but you fail, like, this is like the take risk one we did on the January 2nd. It's like, you gotta just try. You never know if you don't try. And so it's like, let's try scrambled eggs. Oh, you know what? I tried them. They burnt, they didn't come out. It didn't come out. Yeah.
That's sort of the same thing for me as I've tried to grow half-heartedly online business or online training for many, many years, actually, since we started doing a lot of full-time travel. And so trying it in different ways, I've failed over and over and over again, and I've learned how to do it better. I've learned to have a louder voice and sell myself and know that, pride myself in what I do. Humility is an amazing thing for me, but it has also taught me to be very quiet in a space where I know that I can help a lot of people. So when I fail, when you fall outside and you trip on something, you're falling forward. At least you're getting up from that error, learning from that, and going forward again.
And the coolest part is, if you get better about that, is it always leads to something so amazing you didn't realize that it was going to be possible. If you try your first time and you fail, a lot of times you're like, don't realize that there could have been something so beautiful in there. And then, you fail a couple more times. I don't know. I just always feel like timing is there for a reason. And sometimes the first few times that I failed something, I'm like, oh, well, it kind of sucks.
The universe does.
And then you fail one time. You don't fail one time, and you're like, I was meant to go through all those times to achieve this one time. Another one, super guilty of, number 4. you can do anything, but you can't do everything. And yeah, it's hard. I want to do everything. On my list, I have horribly long lists that just look like a mad scientist. And then sometimes I just end up sucking at everything because I'm trying to do all of these different things and it just doesn't work.
And I have a good story for this. When I work with a young man that was recruited very, very young, probably as a sophomore, he was going to play, verbally committed to play at a high level lacrosse school. He was one of the fastest young men that I've ever seen. And he decided to let that go. And he said, I'm going to go to UCLA. I want to be an attorney. And so he let go of lacrosse and started going there and started running track. Never run track a day in his life. Ran 100 in like just under 11 seconds the first time he ever put on spikes. Kid was fast. So he comes back to me. I trained him all through high school. He's like, hey, how can I really accelerate this, improve my learning curve and get faster? And so I designed a workout for him and sent it to him and touch base with him every once in a while. I actually mentored him what I feel was pretty well. And so I thought he was on his way. Came back to me with a really bad hamstring injury. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? What hurt you with this training? He's like, well, I've been doing this, what I sent him to do, plus like what was Navy SEAL training, which is high volume, tons of distance running. I'm like, wait a second. And I told him, you know what? You can do anything, but you can't do everything. So if you want to be good at distance running, fast, fine, and lots of pull-ups, great. Or do you want to be good at track? Pick. And so in the end, he had to make that decision, but that's a good story because he was like incredibly gifted physically, but he was shifting his effort away, trying to do too many different things, which was him in a nutshell.
Absolutely. I was going to say, it's kind of like you would be good at a deadlift or hiking, but...
Oh yeah, I mean, that's one of the big things for me is like with all of our adventure sports, if a barbell's in my hand, I'm pretty happy doing lots of different movements with it. And so when I came up here, I can see a difference in my ability to do adventure sports. You go, well, aren't they kind of help you with strength? I'm like, well, to be really good at this stuff, I'm talking, significant amount of poundages that I lift, and that impacts my ability to walk all day ultimately. And so you got to practice both. You got to practice what you want to be good at and pick what you want to be good at. So I have to let go a little bit of that as my body changes and we travel more. I would shift and shrink down a little bit, which my wife likes.
All right, number 5 was the game changer for us. Really, there's no way around becoming whatever you're trying to become, your highest self, aligned with your purpose, without self-awareness. It's just not possible. You have to be aware of what thought patterns are happening inside. You have to be aware of how you're communicating. You have to be aware of where you are going or where you're trying to head. So meditation has been a game changer for everyone in our family.
Everyone. Actually, Schmingy, Tati doesn't necessarily always, but the silver lining with her not meditating is she always goes, well, can I just read? Sure, you can read instead of meditate.
She's still probably like 50. She's probably getting in 50% of the meditation.
Yeah, I think the crystals have helped and the sound bowl were created. Setting up your environment is certainly critical. I have clients that I first tell them, hey, I don't care where you get it. You're in the shower, if your kid's in the bathtub, or you're watching TV, just go in the bathroom, meditate in there but then eventually make it something, just like we talked about coffee, right? Make it this whole ritual that's amazing. The same thing, create an area for you to do it, and it'll help you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a link right here to, we have a guide for beginner's guide to meditation, and how much of it just talks about being comfortable. I don't care if you have to lay down, sit against a wall. You don't have to sit crisscross, straight back, thumb and finger touching. That's great, you can, but you don't have to. The goal is to sit in silence and become aware of what thought patterns are happening.
Right.
And not have any judgment or attachment to them. It's truly like, that's interesting. Just like the colors of the sky right now. It's like, wow, that's interesting. It's not better, it's not worse. You don't have to label them, but
there's a reason the most successful financial people set time aside to meditate every day, right?
Absolutely. And then that brings us to number 6. The more you meditate, it helps you with visualization, gaining clarity. We're going to do a whole nother video on this because clarity is so important. So we're going to talk more about this, but really quick, visualization, it helps knowing that desire, knowing where you're headed, seeing it, and then, you really end up, manifestation works. I know it seems like, well, that's crazy. You can't just like wish for something. But what happens is as you start to visualize and you see it with more and more clarity in your head, like, okay, I see Victor and I sitting here together collaborating instead of me just working on nomads and him just working on training. We can come together, and you start visualizing it, and then we visualize, what are the next things we want to talk about.
It's no different than an athlete, right? An athlete, like I always tell people when I'm first teaching them to do a lift, as they start to get, particularly my males, they're lifting, they want to add size to the upper body. Well, sometimes we got to go pretty heavy. And if they just lay down lackadaisically and just try to lift that heavy weight, I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes, start over. Sit on the end of the bench. Check. Visualize how the bar feels in your hands. Visualize how the weight's going to react. Tell yourself how the weight's going to feel. And so usually we significantly say lightweight. The weight's going to feel light. And guess what? It helps. And so the same thing, you apply that into life. The same thing when I did my, I've only competed a few times in jiu-jitsu, but when I have, and I've had success, I visualize how the match is going to go. And so I spend hours, if not weeks, before working off scenarios. Like, I'm going to shake hands, this is what we're going to do, this is going to see. I can feel the texture. I know what it's going to feel like when I put pressure on this guy in this way. And then you see success.
Yeah, I like watching Gabby before she lead climbs a really hard route. She'll sit there and
do the T-Rex arm thing.
Yeah, and like visualize. She'll sit and visualize the moves and stuff. So it's pretty cool. Number 7, the best one, of course. Sometimes you can't go it alone. Sometimes it's just, you need a mentor. It was a big deal that this year I spent a big chunk of money for a financial mentor, because I was like, I felt for so long like, I can do it. I know everything. I can research it. But the fact is, it's like, once I spent the money, it made all the difference just knowing, like, when I had a question, I had somebody to defer to. And like I said, it was a game changer. And so sometimes you just need to think about, okay, well, what element? For me, that was kind of like the last element. I felt so good about my relationship, all these other things, my business, what I was doing, but I just needed somebody to guide me a little bit better in some of my investments. And so it looked like it was getting dark. It's getting a little dark in here. So that helped a lot.
Okay.
Whoa, sorry.
Keep going.
There we go. Okay, so that would be one. Now, we're not necessarily your only answer. If you need a coach for how to be stronger, how to get rid of all your aches and pains, how to just perform better in life, Victor's the man for that.
Well, I focus a lot on the 5 pillars, but Robin focuses a lot on mindset. And so
and for me, my coaching definitely comes down to like what we talked about today. If you have trouble uncovering desire, if you're really lost in like, what is my purpose? I have no idea. You say this higher self, Robin, I'm like, I'm just trying to get through my day. That's where I come in. But we can definitely fill a combination of those things for you. It just really depends on you having a willingness to be the best version of yourself. And that's something that, it takes a while, but it's kind of like just the Great Awakening. Boom, one day you just wake up and you're like, you know what? I'm tired of blank. I want to become this.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for consuming our video today.
Yeah. So look, like it if you, little thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe and set up notifications. If you made it to the end of this video, we know this is for you. So do yourself a favor, get the notifications. Robin and I will be here to help you. Lots of ideas. Give us some comments on what you need help with too.
Absolutely. All right. We'll see you tomorrow.